Welcome, welcome, welcome on this beautiful sunny day in Auckland, at least. Not the same for the rest of the country, so I hope everybody is safe and well and dry. Crazy weather at the moment, but as I said, a beautiful day in Auckland. We're just going to wait about 30 seconds or so for people to join, come on, get ready, and then we can get into it. So my name is Scott Matheson. I'm the co-founder of Working In, and we've been doing these webinars for years now. We've been helping people move to New Zealand for 20 years, and it's quite a passion of ours. We have a large immigration team, and in these very uncertain times, we are really thriving in helping employers retain their key migrant staff. And I think it's really interesting over the last 18 months. It's really highlighted the value of migrant staff. It's a big debate, obviously, and it's a big political debate. But for our clients, our employers in New Zealand who need skilled people, whether it be in the public arena, like in the hospitals, or in the private arena, I don't think we've ever seen a time where the value of the migrant worker, those people on visas, has been under the spotlight and been shown to be so valuable to this country. So today is all about how do we retain our people with all these changing visa conditions. So I think we'll get underway now. We're about 1 minute past. What we're about here is practical stuff. It's really about how do we help you. We don't like jargon. We don't like getting into all the policy jargon, but we will give you practical advice and practical tips on how you can retain your people when a lot of the changes are going to be implemented over the next few months. And some of the retention tools that you once had may no longer exist. So as I said, my name is Scott Matheson. I'm the co-founder of Working In, and welcome everybody this morning to this B2B webinar on how to retain your migrant staff. With me on the panel is Naseem Lalazari, who many of you know, and if you don't, she is our head of immigration here at Working In and been with us for over 10 years. Naseem, could you please just introduce yourself to the audience today, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I can see that I know most of you that are here today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Naseem. I'm a licensed immigration advisor. I've been with Working In for over 10 years. And during that time, I've literally helped, I think I can say thousands of employers now, as well as thousands of skilled workers. So it's been a lot of experience. And hopefully today we can give you some actual practical tips that you can take to plan and make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity that's currently available to keep your staff.
Fantastic. Thanks, Naseem. Yeah, so just to run through kind of the script of today, we're going to cover the recent changes that have been announced, what the implications are for you around those changes, some of the tips that we have for retaining your existing workforce in a very volatile and overheated job market where people are potentially jumping ship for $1 an hour. A little bit about border exemptions, because the government is granting border exemptions in areas that you may well be unaware of. And then what next? Because of course the Prime Minister last week announced some future plans around the border and what you could do in preparation to make sure that when the borders do open, you're very well prepared, you can hit the ground running. And if you've got people offshore or you're looking to get people from offshore, that you are right at the front of the queue and to bring those people in, because there will be a bottleneck for sure. So we're going to be 30 minutes. That's what we're covering. And I think so I'll just go straight to Naseem. So recent immigration announcements, what are the main points that have come out, Naseem, and how will they impact employers in New Zealand?
I think the main thing that everyone's probably aware of, or should be aware if they're not haven't been reading my emails or keeping up with the news, is that the median wage has moved to $27 an hour for essential skills work visas. So that's really, really important to know, because immigration policy was adjusted sort of earlier on in the piece in COVID to move away from the different skills bands to median wage as being the line in which immigration would look at in terms of how long a visa that they would issue. So we recently were at $25.50 and now we're at $27. So what this has meant is that depending on what your staff are earning, this affects the length of the visa that they can have issued. So if you're paying at or above the median wage, that's a 3-year visa. Anything below that will now be 2 years. You might remember at some point that during COVID, government was only giving 6-month visas. It was an absolute pain. They were obviously doing that intentionally to discourage you from paying below the median wage, and also so that you would hire someone who'd been let go in, a Kiwi that had potentially lost their jobs. So first thing, really important, median wage has moved to $27. And because of that, you'll see, or we've seen lots of employers getting in touch to say, oh, so-and-so's, told me that I have to pay them X or Y in order to get a visa. This will be part of that reason. The migrant community is quite aware of these changes, so they'll be coming to you to say, this is what I want. Now, with the move to the $27, we'll continue to see median wages increase. I believe it was a couple of weeks ago that Stats NZ announced that the average wage up to the March quarter had moved to just over $34.52. So if the average wage is going up, we can expect the median wage to go up as well. So if you haven't taken wages up for your staff now, you might expect to need to do that with their next visa renewal. So that's the first thing that I think everyone needs to be aware of, which is the move in the median wage. The second thing, if anyone's got any questions at any time, please feel free to pop them in the corner. I do see them, is that the government has confirmed, at least as of today, that the work to residence visas under the long-term skill shortage and the talent instructions will not be available after the 31st of October. So as part of a suite of changes that came in, we were given some deadlines, and most of you will be aware that the 31st of October was due to be the last day that people could apply for long-term skills shortage, accredited employer, and essential skills. Now, essential skills will continue on, but the other two are still set to finish. So that's really, really important to note. So you've got until the 31st of October potentially to support migrants under those categories. And the third change was, the big change, was that the accredited employer work visa scheme, that accreditation process has been delayed from the 1st of November to mid next year. So a little bit of respite for employers, which is great because there's so much going on as it is, gives you more time to get organised, and in the meantime, focus on some other things instead.
Okay, thanks, Nazim. That's a pretty big announcement. So 31st of October, just to be clear, if you are an accredited employer, is the deadline for lodging a visa under the work to residency, and the pay rate for that is?
It's currently $38.25 per hour with 40 guaranteed hours per week.
Yeah, and we also know that the government is no longer approving accreditations. So that has passed. You cannot become an accredited employer now. What if, and I think I just saw a question pop up about this, what if between now and the 31st of October, your existing accreditation expires?
That means that you've got less time to support a worker onto that work to residence. So if your accreditation expires, for example, on the 1st of October, you have until the 1st of October to move staff to a salary that meets the requirements and to lodge a work to residence visa under the current instructions. If your accreditation's expiring, your talent accreditation's expiring, you currently cannot renew that. Those applications closed on the 30th of June. So you've got a very, very small window in which to take this opportunity to move any staff onto that policy. And then after that, you won't be able to. The other I can see here, yes, it is very frustrating, 100%. Every employer that we speak to is like, government, you know, we talked to Immigration New Zealand. They specifically told us not to renew and just get ready for the next one. So I think Immigration New Zealand was probably just providing the advice they were given from government. Government's done a bit of a flip-flop, which does put lots of companies in an awkward situation. But what we do know is that you do have this small window, and we recommend not wasting it if you can utilize it, because there's no guarantee that it'll be offered to you again, to use that as a retention and attraction tool. You've got less than what we've got, September, October. You've got 2.5 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So use it if you can.
Yeah, so I think the message is there, please, if there's one thing that you can do right now is check the expiry date on your accreditation, on your existing accreditation, because that is the deadline for bringing any workers that are under that threshold up over the $80,000 threshold and applying for a work to residency visa. And of course, Nazim, you'll agree with me that that is an excellent retention tool, because as soon as you're applying for a work to residency visa, then you have to, well, then you don't have to, but you must stay with an accredited employer for 2 years before you can apply for your residency from work.
That's correct. So, and I think any accredited employer will know that that's what their staff that aren't already on that pathway are looking for. I appreciate that, not all roles will qualify, but where they're close, and with the fact that most of you will have seen that there's been quite a steep trajectory in terms of the wages going up, that most people might not be too far off, that it's worth considering. And it's also important that everyone within the business at the management level understands what date the accreditation expires, because we have seen where we've been dealing with some individuals within the business, and then others, sometimes more senior managers, have come and said, oh, we didn't know this was expiring. Why didn't anyone tell us? So make sure that everyone's aware and you're using that as part of any workforce planning that you've got happening at the moment.
Sure. Okay. So I think there's a question is, do you think the government will allow us to, apply for accreditation again? We don't have a view on this. It's very difficult to get a view. We, as Nazim said, we talk to immigration on a daily basis. And unfortunately, immigration don't know either. A lot of the decisions that are being made are coming out of the beehive. And, decisions that do get made and do get announced to us and you are pretty much a surprise to most of the staff at immigration as well. So look, we just think you've got to act on what we have right now. I think a really big factor around this, though, is the feeling of your skilled migrant and the necessity to make them feel or assured that they have some sort of pathway and they feel secure. So in our experience, a lot of people who jump ship, they might not be jumping to another employer for $1 an hour or $2 an hour. It's more that that employer can offer them some certainty with a longer visa, or of course residency, which is the golden ticket that most people want. So if we take away the accredited employer route, the only other, well, not the only other, but the main other route is the skilled migrant category, where a employee needs to attain 160 points. Now, many of the people we talk to are under that threshold. So we've got some plans that we put in place to try and help these people get to the 160. And this we've found is a really good way of helping to retain your staff. Nazim, do you want to sort of run through what we've done in the past that we feel from our experience is quite a good retention tool and a really, really wonderful way with engaging in your migrant workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. So with some of the companies that we work with, even if they were accredited, not all roles will be paying at that, 38.25 threshold, but the individuals are still considered skilled, or they're still paid above the median wage, and they do otherwise have this potential path to residency under the skilled migrant category. And we know that the government wants to push everyone through that particular funnel, mainly because they can control it a little bit better in terms of the numbers, and by being able to have a little bit more control of the policy, I think they feel like they can maybe manage it better and keep everyone a little bit happier. Now, specifically, this policy is points-based. So an individual will get points based on their age, their job offer, being skilled, experience that they've got, any qualifications that they have, any points they can claim for their partner, if there's any skill shortage points they can claim, all the rest of that. So some of those things will be fixed, like you can't change your age, but other things you can control. So for example, what we're finding is by sitting down with an individual and talking to them one-on-one, we're getting information about them, their families, what their situation is. Many times I come across individuals who've got a qualification that they completed, but because it's not relevant to the work they do now, they don't necessarily list it on their CV and their employer might not know about it. But those might be just these really good grunty points that we could be claiming. If it's not automatically recognised, we could be getting those assessed so that they can claim those points when the time comes. Another alternative is that sometimes employers identify that their particular employees are so valuable that they want to be able to support them in terms of getting a New Zealand qualification. One, because it'll help the individual with claiming further points under the skilled migrant policy, but also because it's giving it's not just the migrant worker, but they're getting all of their employees to go through a training process, and it's basically upskilling everyone. And by doing it across the board, you've got a lot more buy-in and commitment, and that's just better for our country as it is. So, we can sit and we can work with employers to work out, well, these individuals might be fine, but there's a few others here that might benefit from X or Y course. Doesn't have to be a degree. It can be a trade qualification or a lower level qual, and still they'll qualify for 40 points towards their residency. And that gives a lot of value, both to the company because the individual wants to stay, and also for the migrant worker who wants to stay and get their qualification so they can claim those points.
Yeah, so it's a really good point. And literally, I'll give you one working example where we went into a landscape gardening firm in Auckland. Most of their landscapers were on 3-year work visas. They didn't meet the 160 points. We sat down individually with each worker and we built a plan, which was like, well, if you do this landscaping in ZQA 5, level 5, and you get your English up to a certain level for the IELTS, then you've got a pathway to get to that 160 points. The engagement from the workforce was phenomenal. They couldn't believe that the employer was showing them how they could get residency. And it's win-win-win. The employer is getting somebody who's getting more qualified and is more engaged. The workers are ultimately getting residency, but they're also getting more qualified and increasing their English language skills. So that's at a particular level. Obviously, you've all got different levels here, but we just thought that was a really, really good retention policy, because it just got you engaged with the people and understood their needs, and they felt valued. And I don't think there's anything better from an employment situation than to feel valued. So that's something that will, I really believe that more employers will need to do once this work to residency policy slips away. So I'm just looking at the time here, and we're already at 10 to 10. Gosh, time goes quickly. I do really want to quickly touch on border exemptions as well, because there's thousands of people have been granted border exemptions over the last 18 months, far more than we would expect or what the media sort of leads us to believe. And it's not just in the critical areas like healthcare. So we've had quite a lot of success in bringing various people through from different parts of the world. And so much so that we've actually built a website called borderexemptions.co.nz, because what we've learned over this time is that, we have had a large number of approvals, but we've also had some declines, and we've got to know a little bit about what immigration in New Zealand are looking for. So I guess the message is that if you have people offshore that you can't get in, just contact us. If you're looking to hire from offshore but you think you can't, let's have a chat, because there are possible ways, and we'll be quite black and white. We'll be able to say, no, there's no chance at all, or yeah, there is a chance. And actually, when we the way that we do it is that we take a lot of the risk on ourselves. So if we say to you, yes, we can potentially get this person on board, 60% of our fee is actually only when we get the approval. So look, it is a very interesting dynamic. Nazim, do you have anything to add around those border exemptions and how they're actually working in practice? I'm sure you do.
I just wanted to point out that 100% we would be honest about this one doesn't have a chance at all. You know, or actually, no, this one does have a chance, but this is what you need to do. So obviously Scott said, you know, we've had a lot of learning, and with all of the applications that we've done, we've been able to see some patterns. The other thing is that we noticed that public opinion and what's happening in the media does also seem to affect outcomes. So sometimes a little bit about timing. So we appreciate that, you know, every employer is desperate for staff, everyone's stretched. There's physically not enough people in New Zealand, and everybody wants to get that person that they need, or even the family members of their skilled workers that have been stuck overseas. If you've got any questions, all you need to do is just flick me an email. Happy to have a chat. I have them all day, every day, and if we can help, I'll let you know. If not, we'll try to help you, you know, let the individual down softly to say that maybe they just need to wait till the borders open for their family to join them. But by and large, a lot more people have been allowed in them. I think people appreciate.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. And I think finally, with 7 minutes to go here, we should mention the announcement by the Prime Minister last week, which I felt was quite encouraging for employers, that it gave a pathway or some hope to the borders actually opening to some extent for skilled workers. The announcements didn't specifically note anything around immigration or immigration policy, but the fact that New Zealand is now embarking on a plan certainly is good news for employers. And our view on this is that there's quite a lot of preparation that you can start doing if you have a need to hire skilled people from offshore and that you can't find New Zealanders locally or other skilled people locally. What we've been doing over the last year, as well as helping employers onshore, is we've been doing a huge amount of interviewing and webinars like this, mainly to the UK and Irish market, and prepping people and pooling people, if you like, about coming to New Zealand when the borders open. So we do have the ability, and we are talking to employers who are now getting ready, and from a recruitment perspective anyway, they've started interviewing people with a view that once the borders open, that those people will come down. So immigration, like if you were hiring from the UK anyway, and you offered somebody a job, normally the process to get them here is about 6 months in normal times. So we're saying, hey, listen, you can interview those people now, and you can actually make them a job offer if you wish, subject to the border opening. And then we can, or whoever you use, yourselves can, start collecting all the documentation that you need for the visa application. And then when the borders do open and the offshore offices do open, then you'll be well placed to lodge a visa when the borders open and have that person come down, be first in the queue, MIQ dependent, of course. So that was I guess the encouraging news. We've sort of been wondering when that's going to happen. Of course, there's a whole lot of unknowns, Delta, etc. But certainly the employers that we are talking to are really interested in engaging with the offshore market now and starting to build that pipeline and getting them ready. Nazim, do you have anything else to add to that? I mean, it's more of a recruitment rather than a visa perspective, but I know that you're heavily involved in assessing some of these people and making sure that they have the requirements to meet New Zealand policy.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, as well as obviously checking that individuals will qualify for a visa, the other thing that companies might need to start thinking about is that with the introduction of the accreditation mid next year, the government might be using that as a way to limit the number of people once the borders do open. So in terms of wanting to be able to have access to those candidates and those skills, my advice would be to start preparing. What we do know is that those that are prepared are always the ones that can, quickly jump up and take action on something the fastest. So if you're not already working on preparing that accreditation application, and think of it as something that you've got working slowly in the background. It's not something you need to jump on today, but because everyone's so busy and there is so many things going on, it is something good to be aware of, and just to be chipping at slowly, so that when we do get the more firm information from the government, borders are opening from X or Y date for these people or those people only, you can be in a position to move faster, obviously if you need skills from overseas.
Yeah, so the accreditation piece, we all know was going to be November the 1st. That was the deadline. The government have kicked that out to mid-2022, which is July. And I think, to reiterate, in our lives and our business lives, things move along pretty quickly. We're now in August. As we move through to September, October, we're pre-Christmas, and then it's February. So I just want to reiterate, I think that in our experience, again, when we have worked with employers to submit or get their paperwork ready for accreditation, it takes months. It literally takes months. And some of the requirements that the government needs means that you might need to be a little bit more prepared. You might not have done enough training, for example, or there's a whole lot of different scenarios. So the whole thing today is, how do you retain your skilled staff? You don't want to be caught out in July next year and not be accredited. So we are imploring you to start looking at that now and making sure that all the parts of that application will be ready. So when the government does announce the accreditation deadline, you will be there. Because, just to reiterate, every employer in New Zealand who is hiring a migrant, whether that's a renewal of a visa onshore or someone from offshore, next year from July onwards, according to the government's dates, needs to be accredited. So accreditation is compulsory. It's something you have to do, and we just believe, why delay that process? Start looking at that now, and it'll save quite a lot of grief down the track. Agree with me on that one, Nazim? I'm sure you do. Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it so often, haven't we?
I was just going to also add is that what we've seen is that at the moment, those companies that, even if they're not accredited, if they're communicating to their staff that they are in the process of preparing it, they seem to have a better job at retaining and keeping their staff and attracting new ones. So I think that's part of the message, is that you as an employer understand that it's important, that you're working on it, you're going to get it, you'll be able to support them. And I think that's key, because migrant workers understand that that's a requirement. They know that it's going to come, so they want that security.
Yeah. Really, really good point. Engage your team, be transparent, give them a future, understand the stresses they have. I think one of the biggest stresses of COVID is the unknown. So you can imagine what it's like as somebody over here on a work visa that doesn't really know where their pathway to residency, how stressful that can be, and the decisions that they make based on stress. So our roles as employers, and we have skilled migrants in our workforce as well, is to talk with them, understand what they're concerned about, and try and provide them a pathway and act on that. So, that's something that all of you can do without engaging with any consultants. And it's quite simple, really. And I think there's huge benefits out of that anyway. So look, it is now 10 o'clock. We could keep on talking, but we just like to keep these very short, and hopefully you've got something out of that. As Nasim said, we're always happy to talk to anyone. We're sort of black and white as to whether we can help you or not. But we love helping employers. So that's our main driver, helping employers grow. So yeah, please feel free to contact us, and have a good day out there, and be safe, especially if you're in the upper South or lower North Islands. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you.